In this video, we're going to look at how we can draw different styles of leaves. As we can see on the screen here, the flowers have already been drawn, but in my previous video, I can show you how to draw flowers from scratch. If you want to go back and have a look at that one, this one's going to go over the styles of the shading, the different details and so forth. So watch on and I hope you enjoy it. So in my last video, we talked about how to draw a flower from the blank page all the way to completion. We did the shading, we did the lining, talked on some details of how the flower's constructed. We did briefly touch on different shapes and different styles that can be done with leaves. Now, if we look at the 5 pictures I've got drawn here, we can see none of them have got leaves. This is blatantly obvious on the flower in the middle here. We can see the little stems coming out here with nothing attached to them. It looks quite bare. So what I've done is for each flower, I've just went ahead and made a rough idea of where I think the leaves should go on each one. Now in this first design we've got here, we can see it's a fairly even design in the respect of the leaves and the petals and the first layers. Once we get to the outer layer, I like them to go a little bit more random. We can do them perfectly each time, make it into a kind of geometric flower, but in this particular one, I want them to be a little bit more random. So first off, what we're going to do, we're going to zoom in so we can see where we're working. And all we're going to do is trace over these rough lines I've made. We've got the main size of the leaf here. We've got some lighter lines representing the veins. And in this particular style, we've got a long triangle that goes down the middle. So we're going to go onto the leaves layer. And all we're going to do is start drawing them in one by one. There's my pen tool. So it doesn't take long to do this. Fairly easy. Again, like with the flower we did last time, they don't have to be precisely perfect. Each side of the leaf doesn't have to be perfectly mirrored to the other side. There's one. We're going to look at these smaller leaves here. Now on this one I've got a slight S curve going on the leaf to give it a very, very loose S, as we can see here. Just gives the leaf some more shape and character. They don't all have to have an S curve. You see here, it's just 2 loose curves there. Let's head up to this bigger leaf at the top here. Now generally I like to draw the triangle in first, which will give me more of an idea of where the leaf is going, rather than drawing the leaf and trying to make the triangle fit. Sometimes that can make the triangle too small. As we're going to be using that for some shading and colouring later, we want to have the triangle to be in a position where it's going to be useful. Okay. Let's zoom in a bit more. Again, if you're drawing digitally, try to make the canvas move to fit the movement of your hand rather than your hand moving to the canvas. Your hand has a natural curve that it likes to make. If you're trying to work against that curve, you're just making extra work for yourself. It's going to be a harder task. So try to make the job as easy as you can. If you're working with paper and you're not working digitally, just turn the paper. That's all we're doing. We're doing a digital version of that on the software. We're just turning it round, back and forth, to make it easier for the movement of our hand. One thing we'll find as well when we're working digitally is to make sure the lines touch each other. So we can see here it's crossed over. If that line had went the wrong way, and it either went a bit far like this, or it hadn't gone quite far enough and we'd missed the line, we'd end up having to go in to re-edit the line. It's not a major problem if you do, it's easy enough. And also try when the lines touch other lines that they finally touch up and butt up to each other. If you've got any gaps, like if this line, for example, if I finish the line just a little bit short, it doesn't seem so obvious here, but once the shading goes in, that little inconsistency will step out, will pop out and we'll notice it. So we've got some smaller leaves here. Again, we don't have to worry about being super perfect and precise to the rough lines we made. We can make some variants as we go if we feel that it needs to change. And the rough lines are really only there to guide us, so we've got an idea of where they need to be going. So we don't draw one leaf way too big proportionately to the flower, or we don't make them look way too small. There's always room for change. Just a small flower here. What we're going to look at now is we've just got some of these little spikes we can see around the edges. There's one. There's a second one. I believe this is the last one. Now I can see here I've went a little bit over the line of the original outline of the petal. Now this isn't a problem if we're working digitally, because I've made all the lines on separate layers. So I can just go into this line, I can use my eraser tool, erase past it, and it still leaves the original line nice and sharp, so we don't see a bump in the line. So it doesn't look like we've edited it afterwards. Okay, so now we've got the outlines of the big leaves and the outlines of the small leaves done. We're going to go in now, we're going to put these veins in. So I've got another layer here. I'm going to change the size of the brush down. Somewhere there, let's see. Yeah, that should be good. So we're going to zoom in again so we can see where we're working. Now with these lines, you can just make them go over and it gives the lines, the leaf some texture. If you want them just to finish exactly on the outside edge, that's fine as well. Whatever you think looks good. Like I mentioned in one of the previous videos, the lines don't have to be evenly spaced. If we want to do a couple of lines closer, have some more gaps between them, and so forth, we can do that. Whatever your preference is, what you think looks best. They all look good, so you can't really do it wrong. And even if you do, you can adapt it to your style and make it something unique to you. You know, all the artists do that. They find something, they learn how to do something, they put their own twist on it, and that's how everyone gets their own unique style. So feel free to play around and see if something works. And if you find something that looks good, might not look good in every situation, but there might be times where a particular style looks better than another. So what we're doing is same thing on these ones. Just adding some veins to the leaf. I've used a slightly thinner line, a lighter line weight. If we're trying to do this with this big thick line, the inside veins would get too heavy and it would overpower the leaf and it wouldn't leave any room for shading. Just the last line there. As we can see on these sketch lines, the rough lines underneath, I've put a different space in and they've went over the line. I'm not going to bother with that on this one. Maybe on the other ones we'll do it. We can see how that looks. So you can see this part isn't complicated at all. It's just find something and do it over and over again. You can see this one, the lines are fairly thin together. On that one, they're wider apart on this one. Again, it doesn't matter. You can make each one exactly the same if you wanted. If you're on a computer, you could duplicate the line and paste it in. You could duplicate the whole leaf and paste it in and make it exactly perfect every time if you wanted. You could scale it and do a whole bunch of stuff with it. If you're doing this with paper, you just draw the line on tracing paper. You draw the leaf on tracing paper, move the tracing paper around, and do it that way. So, there's everything you can do on a computer or a tablet, whether you're using, we're using Creo or Procreate or something like that. It doesn't matter. Everything you can do on them, you can do with a pen and paper. So there's no advantage to using a PC or a tablet over just grabbing a pen and paper and going at it old school. In fact, there's a lot of artists that still stand by only using pen and paper, that won't use anything else. And that's cool as well. So let's scale it right out and see where we're at. So we can see now we've got all the extras, so we can turn off that rough layer for the moment now. We can see we've got some leaves on that one. So I'm going to go ahead and save that. So that's one style of leaf. They're fairly simple. We'll look at the shading of them in a moment. We'll look at all the shading of the leaves in one go. So let's have a look at this one over here. Number 2. Again, threw some rough outlines on. We'll see these ones are just facing different directions again. So got one line going there, one I think there. Now what I see here is these 4 are bigger leaves, and this is a smaller leaf, and this is a smaller leaf. So I'll do these 2, this one and this one, slightly different to how I do these ones. So we're going to go back onto the main layer. Turn our size of our brush up. Now this one I'm still going to put a center line down it, but it's not going to be a triangle like it was in the previous ones. One center line. I'm going to curl these ones out. This one's got a harsher S-curve on it. It gives the leaf a different feel. So again, just an S-curve. And an S-curve there. And the S-curve is quite a natural shape for your hand to make. And the S-curve is used in so many things. We can see it in the petals here. We can see it in the turnovers. So many things use the S-curve. So it's such a simple movement to make. It'll be one of the most repetitive movements you'll make in drawing. It's all over the place. S-curve here. Again, just into an S. Now these smaller leaves, all we're going to do is like a very harsh S with a pointy edge. Essentially, we take that and it's just being squashed down. We're leaving out the middle line, if you want to think of it that way. There we go. Now we can put some lines on this one if we wanted to. I'm going to do a different style of lines on this one this time though. So last time the lines were all going in a diagonal type fashion to the line and fairly linear, fairly evenly spaced. What we're going to do with this one to make them slightly different, just to show a different variance we can do with the lines. I'm going to zoom in a bit. Again, I've took a smaller line weight. Now what we're going to do is just lines that slope down and meet this middle line, almost like they're all starting from this same middle line and just poking out in a curve. Again, we can see they're not in even spacing. They don't start and finish at the same place, and that's fine. Let's have one coming out here. There we go, that's the last one for here. Same on this one. If you want to start from the middle line and curve out as well, that works as well. If you're not sure you can get the line looking like it's joining in evenly, start from the middle line, and away we go. So just repeat the process. Easily done. We don't have to worry about them being exact. We don't have to worry about the curve of the line being perpendicular and following an exact curve. We can mix them up if we want. Now see, we've just ran over a little bit on these ones. So we're going to go into the main one, into the main line work. And we're going to select our razor tool. Onto the leaf, sorry. Eraser tool. We're just going to take that out. That leaves the line work there. We can see at the moment we've got a few lines. It doesn't matter if we have one line that wants to have another line coming off it. That works as well. You can do that if you want. You know, just try something. If it looks good, leave it in. You know, in the final piece, no one's going to care that there's a double line there, there's a single line here. No one's going to really care about that. They're just going to look at the final piece, and if it looks good, that's what they'll be taking away from it. Okay, one more set of curved lines to do here. There we go. I'm going to zoom out. These little leaves, I'm not going to put any extra lines in them. So we can turn the rough layer off on that one now. Okay, so we're looking at number 3 now, which is this big one in the middle. So let's zoom out so we can have another look. Let's look at the rough lines here. So as we can see, there's a fair few leaves. We've got some differences here. So far, these leaves have all been hidden behind something. So we haven't had to see the base of it and how it attaches. So we've got a few extra leaves down the bottom here that attach straight to the stems, but the principle of drawing them is exactly the same. You know, there's no special technique for drawing them. All we can see is they just curve around and they come down to a little rounded edge, if you so wish. We see they're rounded here, a little bit more pointed here, both work. Make sure we've got a line tool. We're going to zoom in, and we'll start again. So what we're going to do here, we're just going to do simple curves, like almond shapes almost. Yeah, as easy as that. Almond curve there. And one of the advantages you do have from doing this digitally, if we look at the leaf here, we can make sure we've got plenty of space that they don't cross over. If I found this leaf, I wanted it to be longer and it was going to overshoot this leaf, I could move the whole piece around, everything all together in one go. it's not so easy to do that on paper if you've already started drawing. So we're going to have a look here. So we've got a cluster of small leaves here. And a third one popping out from the middle of it. There we go. I've got a little leaf here. Again, just a small almond shape. Let's put these spikes in whilst we're here. I'm just doing these spikes black, but another common way to do it is, like we did the triangles and the leaves to start with, we leave some space in the middle. You can colour them whatever colour you want, do them yellow, purple, blue or something, just to give a bit more variance to it if we want. Okay, so the leaf that attaches here, going for that S shape. Then just onto the stem here. Same down here. This one's just going for an almond type shape. It doesn't matter if we're making this leaf bigger and it wanted to come behind the petal there, we could do that. That's fine. Now this one we can see is a little bit more rounded. Not happy with that there. And you can always go back and change your line after. We can, especially on a digital version, we can undo and try again if we, say I overran that line. I want it to finish here and I've run it too long. We can just undo it. Not happy with the curve, not happy with something, undo it and do it straight away again. We don't have to worry about erasing it like we would on paper. So it's not that we've got any extra tools that can't be used. We've just got different ways of using the tools. Now what I'm going to do in these ones here, I'm going to go to my smaller line tool again. Onto the lines. I'm going to imagine this line goes all the way across. We're just going to put a V shape coming off the edge of these stems. A V shape. There we go. We could go ahead and put lines in these leaves like we have on here and here if we so wish. But I'm not going to here. So what we're going to do in these ones, we're going to leave these fairly simple. They're just going to be open leaves. So we can turn the rough lines off there. So number 4, that's the bottom left. We can see we've only got a few here. We've got some of the spikes, we've got some bigger leaves, we've got some smaller leaves. So let's zoom in. Let's put our line weight up. It's the right size again. So we've got these look more like rounded leaves here. So generally what I like to do with these is just round them and just a tiny little spike at the tip. Like so. Just short, stubby little leaves. So same again here. Flick up at the edge at the last second. And around they go. So even though this is a longer leaf, all we're going to do is exaggerate the curve. Make it a little bit fatter. A little spike at the tip. Same here. Again, it's just an S curve, but we're just exaggerating the curve. These ones here, I think we're just going to have some standard thin. Yeah, that one's fine. You know, so a flower doesn't have to have just one shape of leaf on it. Only because we've got the stubby, fattish, spiky ones here. We can have some of the more thinner ones if we so wish. Let's just zoom in a bit here. There we go. We can also look at, only because this leaf is facing this direction, doesn't mean this leaf's got to be facing exactly the same direction. We can have this one way off in another direction if we want. You know, we don't know if there's a stem coming down and that's leading off. You know, we can't see what's behind it, so it doesn't matter. We can have any direction we like. Especially if this was for a tattoo design, it had to fill a specific area. You might have a bit of a design or something here, which means the leaf can't go that way, so we make it fit. So in tattooing, flowers are great for filling areas because, again, we can make them any shape we liked. You know, if we had a tattoo coming around here and this whole area here wasn't available to be tattooed, we could just leave this side open. In this case, we're going to put some of the little stems on it, the spike things. So now, like I mentioned before, we did in black the other times. These ones, we're going to leave some open space for some colour in them. There's one. There's another setup here. As we can see, the underlying rough lines are just very rough. There's really no real definition of where anything's going. It's just an idea that I want it somewhere around there, and I want them to be spikes. So we look at the original lines and we look at what I've drawn, they're nothing alike. There we go. So I'm going to put just a centre line down these spiky ones. I think they're going to look good with the centre line down them. Yeah, I'm happy with that. Again, if you wanted to put the veins down them, you could. These centre lines don't have to be perfectly straight either. So, for example, if I wanted to give the illusion that the leaf's curved and folding over, we curve the line, and it gives the direction. It shows the direction that we want to portray the leaf's bending. Whilst we're here as well, on this leaf here, if we wanted to add a fold over, so it looked like the leaf's bent, simple as that, just another S curve, so we can see it's curved over and we can see the underside of the leaf. I'm going to leave it for there, for this one. So what I'm going to zoom out, we're going to get rid of the pencil lines. I think what I am going to do is half the leaf is going to have a different design on this one. We'll deal with that when we come to the shading. Let's move across to the last one here. Again, a bunch of leaves just sticking out wherever they want to go right now. So, same as before. We'll zoom in and we'll just go ahead and put some leaves in. Now these ones, I haven't really planned ahead what style we're going to do with them, so we can just make these ones up as we go along. I think that one wants to be facing this way. Again, with the S-curve, we can give an idea of which way the leaf's facing. You know, by this tip gives an idea that it's kind of curving like so. And that can help give a sense of direction in a piece if you want. Yeah, they don't all have to face the same direction. We can see the S-curves on the bottom of these ones. It's on the top of this one. Again, you can mix it up and be as crazy as you want with it. That's fine there. And this one's going to be an almond-shaped one. I'm going to put an S-curve type line on this one, so you can see it's curving in. I'm going to put 2 S-curves on this one. So it's kind of like the short stubby ones we had before. So we've got some little details here. These are just some little decorations to make it look a bit more fancy if you want. You don't have to leave the little lines. You can put dots on the end if you want. You could just leave them as one straight line. You could do it as the spikes again, like we've done on some of the other ones. You don't always have to do the same amount. I've got 3 there. I've got 2 here. Whatever you feel looks good, just go with it. There we go. So if we zoom out and we turn off our offline, we can now see we've got 5 different flowers with 5 different sets of leaves on them. So next we're going to look at shading them and talk about stuff like the triangles we put in and all the different techniques we can use for shading.